Okay, I'm gonna turn this volume down a little bit. It's still loud in my headphones. It's hard to tell how it's coming out of Streamlabs. Wish there was a way to just monitor it. Okay. Interesting. Can I hear myself? I can. Okay. Okay. That's on auto level. You know what? It's okay. I turned it down quite a bit. Let's turn it down to like 15. I'm going to check out the stream here on my computer real quick. My phone, I mean, and just see. Interesting. It says I'm live, but I don't see it on the other side. I don't know. Okay, I see it. I can't hear myself. But I do see it somewhere. So I'm just gonna play. I'm just gonna play my game. I'm gonna put it in a separate desktop seat so I can switch back and forth. Should be okay. Yeah, alright. Okay. I have played this level so many times. I've played it on stream many times, and I get killed every single time, and it's really hard. But I played my brother-in-law last night, and I felt kind of bad about it. It was pretty easy to win because this scenarios are making me learn how to push to win. And if you're playing against somebody that doesn't know how to push, and you've had your butt handed to you numerous times, then it's gonna make you a better player. What is that scenario? That outsmart the barbarians. I could not complete this, so that's the one we're gonna try. We're gonna make sure it's on beginner because it's crazy hard. Armada's not what we know best. So let's try it. Let's make sure our stream's still going. Yeah, I think we're all right. Did I get a live stream on here yet? If I can change like what part. Oh yeah, that's kind of nice. It's horizontal stream.
Please choose your starting location.
I still can't see it on my phone. Oh, there we go. Oh, that's cool. There's 8 people watching on mobile. That's kind of neat. Oh, yeah, I can. That's cool. Okay, I bumped the volume just a little bit. All right, let's just play. Let's have fun. All right. We're going to get beat. I hate to be anti-confident, but that's okay. What I learned from using this incredibly hard scenario and then playing someone else is, even though I get completely swamped by this AI, it does make me a better player to practice like this. So you got to push almost immediately because they're going to start attacking you almost immediately. So I'm going to do 3. I got my confidence up after those wins last night, so now I'm thinking, maybe I can do this. And I'm going to get humbled here real quick. I can feel it. But that's okay. Put one of these so I don't regret it later. And then I'm going to try to move up here and start my base on that other island just to kind of make sure I'm pushing. Oh, for anybody that joined because they like seeing me read audiobooks and wonder, why are you playing a game? It's funny because the game appeals to me. The audiobooks do too, but it is a grind. It's like a mental grind of like pure total concentration. And I wrote down all the ones I wanted to do yesterday, and they were overwhelming. Instead of just doing 1 hour, I was like, I need to do 7 hours. 7 hours of book streams to feel like I'm doing what I need to do. And then I just end up playing this game. But we'll get there. We'll get there. Oh, man, he's already got guys over here. Already. Oh, man. Already. See, should have built the laser tower. Should have built the laser tower. I'm already playing defense. Ugh. Come on, guy. What are you doing? I told you I'd get humbled quick. We're gonna play for an hour. We're gonna get beat every time. What are you doing? What is the fight command? You're sucking up trees? Oh, now they're in the back line. There's no sense in even. Let's just do it again. Let's just do it again. We'll build 2 laser towers this time. See if that helps. Oh, man. That's cool. You can stream in portrait and horizontal now. I guess that's cool.
Choose your starting location.
I don't see them though on my phone. I don't know if it's like, what's the deal? I can't watch them with you. If you're watching, I can't watch. Oh, I found it. Okay. All right, let's do this.
Battle started.
I can hear myself pretty good. This is a pretty good mix. I can't find the horizontal stream. I can only find the vertical one now, but. And it didn't change my title. I changed my title and then it just titled it whatever I had it last time. I don't know why it did that, but it's fun to be in the arena. When I'm not making YouTube videos, I'm mainly just inside my head beating myself up for not making YouTube videos. So it's not really that enjoyable. Sometimes I'm like, screw it, at least you can play a game. It's so easy to stream a game. You just open up Streamlabs, it automatically detects your game, and you hit live. I gotta get everything else I do as simple as that. I guess setting up a book stream takes maybe 10 minutes. It's just so much. That 10 minutes is tough. It's tough to do. Then you can play this game and like 5 hours melt off the clock, and you're like, how did that happen? It's because you enjoy this. I'm trying to get to the point where I'm like, you know what? If you enjoy something, just enjoy it. You know? Just enjoy it. We spend so much energy just beating up on ourselves for not doing quote unquote what we're supposed to do. Like life is just a game, man. You die at the end. Everyone critiquing you will be dead in 100 years. Maybe 200 if you believe in technology. I don't know if I do. I think 100's a pretty good life. After that, everybody you ever knew is gone. Maybe able to get over there. I decided to push over here if I can.
Aircraft spotted.
Wow. One bombing run did it. It went right past the laser. I'm telling you, man, this one is just hard. So fast. They're always so fast. I don't even know how you do this one. Look, I'm getting attacked by 2 armies now, but then the first. Wow. I have no idea how to beat this. I'm on the easiest mode. Just getting rocked. D-gun him, I guess. Not even building units. Ugh. That bomber barely takes any damage from that. That's amazing. Okay, after this we're pushing. Oh, more radar tower. More radar tower. That goes up quick. Let's see what we're working with over here.
Low power.
Trying to go up in the water. No. No. You picked the stupidest route. Whatever.
Radar lost. Low power.
get that artillery. Ah, getting overwhelmed. What did we do wrong? Like, what could I have done better? Was it too much to push the base up here? Should I have done it right here? Look at their army.
Battle ended.
Okay, let's see what they were at. So they got, he's already got a geothermal. Okay. We gotta take one out early. We just gotta go commander to commander real quick. So I saw one guy win, and that's how he did it. You just gotta take this guy out early on, at least, and then you stand a chance. He's already got it. My God. All right. Let's try it again. Hey, Natty. All right. Going again.
Please choose your starting location.
All right. How long we played? 22 minutes. I'll turn the music up a little bit. I can barely hear it. Oh, cool. You can chat within StreamYard now. Streamlabs. Let's see, can you guys see this chat? Let's try it. Oh, you gotta pick YouTube or, yeah, just YouTube. Send it. I don't know if it'll show up. Okay. 30 minutes more of getting destroyed.
Battle started.
I think I kind of like my old strategy. I just did. It didn't work, but it's on the right track. Just staying back here and trying to do it never works. They just immediately attack you. I should have much more of an economy than them if I can just keep this all safe. Let's get a guy going here. Awesome.
Aircraft spotted.
Did they kill my guys already? Yeah. Let's keep some. How are they just everywhere? Yo, come back here.
Low power.
Ugh. I need more electricity. This guy. I need this. Damn bad. Wow, look at that. I don't know how to beat this map. It's so frustrating. Oh, 39 minutes.
Battle
We've gotten
ended.
rocked every time. I think I got about 10 minutes until I get. Okay.
Please choose your starting location. Battle started.
Let's try even more defensive. Let's see how that goes. Probably not very good, but we'll try it.
Low power.
on, get in the water, get in the water, get in the water, get in the water. Get in the water. Should just send it up this way.
Battle paused.
Hang on. Coffee time. I'm streaming. Oh. My coffee went cold. I'm just gonna put on speakerphone while I'm listening to. More fun that way.
Difference between imports of goods and services versus exports of goods and services. That is what the balance of trade measures. Well, the current account starts to include other components. They are very minor, but
okay.
That's what the current account is. The current account is one of the two main accounts in international finance and accounting. And so what I want to point out here in purple is that same DXY index. And what we can see is that for, going back to that early 80s period, remember, the dollar appreciated strongly. And part of the reason I had mentioned for that was rising rates, right? Global capital flowed into the dollar because you could get higher interest rates here in America, more return on your capital. Since the early 80s, interest rates have been falling. So running a current account, right, in deficit, and financing it with debt can work because the cost of that debt is falling. Well, what I want to point out is this clear trend change here.
This is really good.
Debt, the cost of debt is breaking out
really
significantly to the upside, just as our current account is blowing out. This current account is measured quarterly, so $300 billion per quarter. That works out to about $100 billion per month. And so we are reaching this kind of...
So much of this game, I realized this is how fast you can click.
The cost of the debt has been falling, so it has allowed us to accumulate huge amounts of debt to finance this current account deficit, to finance this trade deficit.
Really? Where are you from?
When the cost of that debt starts to increase. And that is clearly what we're seeing here. But also I want to point out, so as the dollar strengthened here from that kind of late 70s, early 80s, as the dollar strengthened here, the current account deficit.
This isn't even
fun. The same
fun.
thing is true here in the mid to late 90s, as that dollar was appreciating versus other fiat currencies, the current account deficit was widening. And now the reason that the dollar weakened and the current account deficit weakened, widened, was China's submission to the World Trade Organization. But then we can see that, some of that weaker dollar that we got here, right, led to the current account improving. So hopefully that relationship is clear. Again, there's small lag before it's reflected in the current account, but that concept is super important. So here's a paper written by the governor of the People's Bank of China in 2009. This was the height of the GFC.
This other guy died already.
And, the global economy was in.
Oh, man. How do you do this match?
A huge driver
How do you
in the
beat
cause
this?
of the 2008 GFC was this Triffin dilemma, was this reserve currency status of the dollar. Famously, he said, issuing countries of reserve currencies
Unbelievably hard.
are constantly confronted with the dilemma between achieving their domestic monetary policy goals and meeting other countries' demands for their reserve currency. On the one hand, monetary authorities cannot simply focus on domestic goals, right? U.S. Needs without carrying out their international responsibilities. But on the other hand, they cannot pursue different domestic and international objectives at the same time. These are in
I'll just come back and do
conflict
this later. This one
Battle
is,
pause.
sucks so bad.
The world. This he names Triffin dilemma, specifically. And in this paper, he argues for a move away from the dollar as the global reserve currency and towards something. There have been a number of kind of suggestions like Bancor.
Metal Rich Speed Metal Road. You find yourself face to face with an enemy Cortex commander and its 4 pet behemoths.
This has been a dynamic that has been appreciated and kind of.
I'll try that next time.
For a long time.
I'm just gonna play a skirmish against a simple person and have fun and win and go out that way. How much longer do I have to play?
The current account deficit here.
12 minutes.
The other side to that is a capital account surplus. I'm super glad people are finally talking about this because this is a huge structural driver of so many things. Asset returns and nominal returns, asset bubbles, right? The overvaluation of stocks and real estate and all these things. This is super, super, super important. And I've done a lot of work on this for the past year or so. And I want to, point out a couple things. So remember the current account deficit. You just invert that, and this is the money flowing into our financial assets, right? Because everything must balance. We must come up with the money somehow.
Please choose your starting location.
Right? And money flows into the country to buy our debt, or money is flowing into our country to buy Nvidia stock at a 50 price to earnings ratio, or single family homes to outpace a young family. It doesn't really matter. In terms of these accounts, the capital account and the current account, money must balance out at the end of the day. So the current account deficit is a capital account surplus just by definition. So here's the S&P 500 divided by GDP. So S&P 500 as a share of GDP, you can see how tightly that is correlated. Here's the S&P 500 on a nominal basis. You can see how tightly that is correlated. Clearly, there was the kind of overvaluation of stocks with the dot-com bubble, but that's that. Here's corporate profits.
Battle started.
Which again have followed the trade deficit higher. So as our trade deficit widens, multinational corporations do better and better, and their margins increase. Here's the home affordability. This is the median sales price of a U.S. home divided by the median family income. And I marked in yellow here. This is QE2 and QE3. This is why they diverge here and why they ultimately come back. This was when the Federal Reserve was engaged in quantitative easing by printing money to buy financial assets like U.S. Treasury bonds, mortgage-backed securities. I will point out the Fed still to this day owns $2 trillion.
This is the quiet in my house. I'm just gonna pause this so you can listen. So this is a big reason that I have this mental block with audiobooks, which I said I wouldn't care the first time I ever did an audiobook. I was like, you're gonna hear my kids in the background. I have bought them headphones to listen to their shows through headphones when I try to record. But when you live in a small apartment, there's really no I'm going to go to the basement, or I did used to do that, but I don't have a direct internet connection down there, so I can't really live stream. Excuses, Tyler. I should just record offline and then upload video by video. But that's not nearly as fun. I don't know. Thinking through it.
of mortgage-backed securities. If they really cared about the fact that young families cannot afford homes, they would take that down to zero. The reality is that they don't care. But regardless, I think it's important.
What don't they care about?
Merge here, and why they ultimately come back. This was when the Federal Reserve was engaged in quantitative easing by printing money to buy financial assets like U.S. Treasury bonds, mortgage-backed securities. I will point out the Fed still to this day owns $2 trillion of mortgage-backed securities. If they really cared about the fact that young families cannot afford homes, they would take that down to zero. The reality is that they don't care. But regardless, I think it's important to remind people that the Fed still owns $2 trillion of mortgage-backed securities. And we can see the effect that that had. It diverged from this capital account surplus for a brief period of time before returning during quantitative tightening. And again, here's the net worth of the top 1%. As the current account deficit gets worse, as our trade balance gets worse, our trade deficit gets worse, more money must flow into financial assets. Who holds all the financial assets? The top 1%. Again, quantitative easing, QE2, QE3, 2012 and 2013. The net worth of the top 1% kind of took off. Quantitative easing is really, really good for that top 1%. Well, there is an inherent kind of issue with this, which is what's called the net international investment position. And you can see that this tracks with the current account that we were looking at here, right? The net international investment position as a share of GDP tracks the same exact shape as the current account. The reason for this is
What are you doing?
how much do foreigners own of our assets versus how much do we own of their assets. And you can see
I don't have enough for it.
It has gone, parabolic or exponential in the wrong direction. This means that 100%, recent data, 100% of GDP, negative 100% of GDP is how much foreigners own of our stuff. Here's another way to visualize that. Here's the net international.
And I can't even do it easy mode.
Equity versus debt relative to GDP. Again,
one last try. Do I have one last try on me?
For the past couple
Yeah,
decades,
one last try.
For the past decade, we have just accumulated hugely negative net international investment positions, meaning the rest of the world owns America. They own our corporate bonds, they own our real estate, they own everything. They own equities, right? This capital account surplus is $300 billion per quarter. $100 billion per month must flow into U.S. financial assets. You do this long enough, right? This chart goes back to the mid 80s. You run this strategy long enough, you end up with the rest of the world owns you. So it's a national security imperative. And here we can see the effect that the strengthening dollar had, right? By trying to run a balanced fiscal budget, strengthened the dollar, blew out the current account deficit. And then as the dollar weakened here,
let's try with that cliff for some protection and stuff.
Improved meaningfully. But as a share of GDP, we can see the fiscal deficit has been doing nothing but worsening. But we went from balanced budget here, balanced fiscal budget here, to now we are running a pro-cyclical, right? Full employment, no war, 6% GDP deficit, and this goes back 4 or 5 years. This is not, it's something that just changed yesterday. This is something that has been a long-term trend, and especially going back to say 2020 or 2021, right? There was a crisis, and we needed to run a deficit. Some would argue, but then the problem was we just kept printing money. We just kept running huge deficits, and we never tried to actually improve things. And normally what happens in a recession, here's 2008, this blue line, which is the fiscal deficit, it widens, right? We have to run a large fiscal deficit to try to stimulate our way out of the recession. But then we fix it. The goal is you come out of the recession or the war or whatever it is, and you end up addressing that deficit that you had accumulated, right? We can see that is what has happened before. The problem is we are kind of the ceiling, right? We keep our quote unquote improvement of the fiscal deficit each successive time is at a lower level, at a worse level. So yeah, there's a deficit, but then we bring it back, but it's not quite to where it was before the crisis. Another crisis hits, we might need somewhat improve the fiscal deficit, but it is nowhere near what it was before the crisis. So what effect does Triffin's dilemma have? What he warned would happen, not only the stuff we've talked about so far, but he also warned this will hollow out your country. So we mentioned the national security implications of the rest of the world owning all of these financial assets of ours, debt, corporate bonds, equities, real estate. Well, they also hollow out your industrial base. And so, we've gotten into a position where 65% of active pharmaceutical
put him on the back foot this time.
We've gotten into a place where, a huge amount of computer chips and electronic devices, which, by the way, go into everything nowadays, come from overseas, right? We couldn't get gloves and masks to protect our healthcare workers because we don't make any of that stuff anymore. We're losing a proxy war to a country with 1/12 of our GDP. It is because of this. Now, this might look great, right? GDP, this is the output, the gross domestic product that comes from the manufacturing sector. Well, once you look at it as a share of total GDP, it's a much different picture. Here in 2000, and this only goes back to 2005, by the way. It's much worse if you go back to like the early to mid 1900s. But we can see that even just in the past 20 years, our manufacturing as a share of GDP has decreased from 13% to 10%. So, this is just the past 20 years. Here, we will look at labor.
Good.
So
Keep him having to deal with this.
This goes all the way back to 1939. This is the total manufacturing employment in white here. And I marked two points in time, the end of the gold standard here in 71, as well as China shock, which was an admission to the WTO. But what I think really illustrates the point is total manufacturing employees as a share of the total labor force. At one time, here in the peak of 1953, 26% of manufacturing, of total employment in America was manufacturing. That number is now 7%. So we can see the effect that the China shock had. We can see the effect
that early push is so infuriating.
Up until the end of the gold standard.
When it's not you.
There are a number of things to point out here. A lot of people always mention technology and productivity, and this is a driver of decreasing employment, which I 100% agree that is a component of it. And so let's look at that. Here is manufacturing output in real terms, in red. It's a index. It is not a dollar amount. And then here is the manufacturing unit labor cost. The way that this white line is calculated is you take the nominal wage that is necessary to produce one unit.
All right, so he's got that covered.
And you divide it by that.
So let's move to these.
Output. So you are taking a nominal wage
and
dividing
you
it by a
need to
real
move to this.
output. And what do we see? Not only since China shock has manufacturing output basically gone sideways. I mean, if you look at this going back to like the 20s or 30s, we have been growing at this rate that you see in the early part of the chart. We've been doing that for the past like 3 or 4 or 5 decades. And then the China shock happens in 01 and we just kind of go sideways. Well, part of what's going on here is this unit labor cost has exploded higher, right? From, call it 86 in 2010 following the GFC, all the way to 130. That is a significant increase. I'll measure right here. That is a 53% increase. So I decided to try to drill down onto this particular issue a little more. Here's the wages of manufacturing employees divided by the manufacturing unit labor costs, and this comes out with something very similar to the output in real terms. And then in blue, that unit labor cost, which again is a nominal labor cost divided by the real purchasing power. The real output of that unit labor cost. And one of the ways we can look at this is by looking at labor productivity in manufacturing. And what have we seen? Since China shock, which was here, labor productivity in the manufacturing sector has declined, right? As the unit labor cost has increased, meaning the nominal wage that it takes to produce the same real thing is increasing, productivity is decreasing. Anything below this white line is negative productivity growth. You can see that going back to we had decent labor productivity growth between 2, 4, 5, 6, even 6, 7%. Well, what happened during the China shock? That was the peak in labor productivity for manufacturing has been declining ever since. And also here in blue, to just try to look at this a little closer, I took the unit labor cost for manufacturing and divided that by the unit labor cost for business. And it actually shows that the unit labor cost is increasing faster, right? The unit labor cost for business is increasing for sure, but the unit labor cost for manufacturing is actually increasing faster. And when did it set its bottom? 2008. There's a paper here by the BLS, the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, that goes into this labor unit cost and productivity more, that I would recommend reading here. I will link it in the description. But what I wanted to show, I think the point to really drive home here is this. What this chart shows is a ratio. It's a relative chart. They take the labor productivity of foreign competitors, they divide that by the labor productivity of the US. So remember, with these relative charts, what that means is as the line goes up, that means that the competitors' labor productivity is growing faster than the US. If we all grew at the same rate, it would just be a horizontal line here at 1. But what we can see is that Europe G4, I think that's France, Great Britain, Italy, and Germany, Japan, all growing manufacturing and labor productivity faster than the U.S. And so if people are interested, I would recommend this paper. There's clearly other issues going on with healthcare costs in America, the cost of labor here in America, the fact that wages have come nowhere close to keeping up with the actual cost of living, all these sorts of issues. Labor productivity is kind of like a whole other video to subject, so I won't go super in depth in this video. But suffice it to say, I think this chart shows somewhat of this sort of issue, illustrates it quite well. So here are durable goods. This is new orders for durable goods, new orders for consumer goods, and then new orders for capital goods. So capital goods, this shows machinery and kind of intermediate components that are needed for further kind of manufacturing, right? Whereas a durable good is like a car, a washing machine, something like that. A consumer good is more of a consumption sort of thing. Like you can think clothing, apparel, that kind of thing. And what we can see is that this chart goes back to '93. Durable goods and consumer goods have grown. Once you adjust for GDP, it's a different story. But generally, this is up in nominal terms. This is both of those categories are up. But what has lagged behind? If you look at capital goods, going back to really the early 2000s, which again is that silent depression kind of framework that I did a video on. The past 25 years, you can see that capital goods, new orders for capital goods are basically flat, haven't gone anywhere. This indicates, I think, this dynamic of the falling productivity that we see as measured here, this falling productivity, and again, the Triffin dilemma saving glut of all this money all this wealth and money that is being accumulated, not just by the wealthy here in America, but all over the world, and it's not going into productive things. It's not invested in people, in real healthy wage gains. It's not invested in plant and equipment. It's not being invested, it's just being hoarded. And so here is the Dow Jones Industrial Average. And I picked the Dow Jones. I understand it includes stocks that are not industrial, but generally speaking, it's a much better measure of industrials than, say, the S&P or certainly the NASDAQ. And so what I did is, here's the Dow Jones. And we can see, going back to 1985, it looks great, right? The industrial components of American economy are doing great. Look, that's up and to the right. Well, once you divide it by the NASDAQ, which is tech stocks, you can see what has been happening here in America. Going back to this data, the NASDAQ only started in the 80s. But we can see the precipitous decline that industrial, again, I understand Dow Jones has some non-industrial stocks, but in general, this is a good way to measure. The performance, the financial performance of the Dow Jones Industrial as a financial vehicle has even underperformed the NASDAQ, right? Everyone is just flooding into Mag 7. We see these trillion-dollar companies, these tech stocks that are going to change the world with their fancy services and lines of code, right? And we see this is a reflection of the underinvestment in industrials, in materials companies, right? This is what that red line is measuring. We'll put another way, this is the over-investment in tech. And here is a really, really kind of clear way to illustrate this. Unfortunately, XLI and XLK only go back to the late 90s. XLI is industrials, right? And XLK is tech. And these are just industrials and just tech. So it's kind of a better measure than Dow Jones divided by NASDAQ. But what I wanted to point out is, following kind of China's admission into the World Trade Organization has hit kind of this like triple top here, and it has just been declining ever since. And this very kind of explicitly shows this lack of investment financially in industrials, material. This looks the same if you look at material stocks divided by technology stocks. And so anyway, so this, if someone is trying to make money off of a once in a generation sort of thing, one thing you could possibly look at is, okay, well, if we're going to pivot towards material stocks and industrials here in America, actually make stuff here again. A pair trade of long industrial, short tech comes to mind. Now, of course, there's also the Mar-a-Lago Accord, and we know that what happens to the value of the real purchasing power value during these sort of once in a generation events. It collapses, right? This is why gold went from $35 an ounce all the way to $700 an ounce in a matter of like 9 years. Now, I will say gold has been pricing this in. People just aren't aware of it, but gold has been pricing this in for years now. This is not something that started a couple months ago. This has been going on, right? Gold has been ripping higher for 2 years now, from kind of 1,700 all the way up to 3,300. This is pricing in the future, right? Remember, markets are forward-looking instruments. They're tools to discount the future. What the gold price has been indicating is it is pricing in, marking to market the real value of the dollar. In my opinion, I can do a whole video on the Mar-a-Lago Accord because I've been doing so much work on it for the past year and a half, certainly a year. If people are interested, I can do that. But my general kind of framework for this is all fiat currencies, all developed countries have way too much debt. Everyone is way too levered. So all fiat currencies, no one really knows, but if I had to guess, all fiat currencies will be devalued in real terms. So gold and things like gold and Bitcoin will just do what they did back after the Nixon shock. They will go to insane levels. Everything needs to be devalued. All fiat currencies need to be devalued in real terms. But the problem is the structural overvaluation of the dollar. That's what the Mar-a-Lago Accord seeks to address. It is this overvaluation of the dollar, right, that is actually now even more overvalued than the peak of 2000 when we let China into the World Trade Organization, or 1985, which famously brought about with the Plaza Accord. We are even more overvalued now. It's become a national security issue, right? Not only does the rest of the world own us, but we can't even make like critical things that our people need to survive, let alone to defend ourselves. God forbid we were ever attacked. And so what I think is all currencies will be devalued, but some currencies will be devalued more, right? And so if you devalue, say, the Chinese yuan and the dollar, but you devalue the dollar by more, what you effectively did was changed the FX exchange rate, right? You effectively changed the exchange rate of the currencies. The dollar is too strong. Put another way, the Chinese yuan is too weak. they have been talking for many years about restructuring their economy away from this overcapacity, export dumping, subsidized export model towards more domestic consumption. They themselves have been saying that for many, many years now. Now you're at a point where kind of the U.S. is going, okay, yeah, we got to reorient our economy as well. I think that all of these dynamics, they just inevitably occur with a Mar-a-Lago. I think everything gets devalued against real terms. Everyone is too over-levered. And then some fiat currencies will be devalued more than others. And by doing that, you will set a new exchange rate that is much more fair. Because remember, the dollar is grossly overvalued, but put another way, the yen is too weak, the yuan is too weak, right? These other currencies are also, there's two sides to that coin. And it will, restructure not only our economy, but kind of the global financial system. If China moves away from an export-driven, subsidized export-driven model and more towards domestic consumption, and the U.S. starts producing things, I know it sounds crazy, but we start actually making things here in America, that is a total reshaping of the global economy. You only see this once in a generation. So hopefully this was helpful. I know it's a lot. I would also say that, the other piece of this that never seems to get mentioned in the mainstream media, Bloomberg themselves mentioned that for an Apple assembly technician, right, just a technician, not an engineer, not a supervisor, just a technician, the starting salary for that U.S.-based assembly technician was $115,000 per year. So these are not low-paying jobs we're talking about. These are high-value-add, high-paying, good jobs like we used to have when America was kind of in its heyday. These were the sort of jobs that only one parent needed to work, and I think there is a potential for a decade down the line us to return to that sort of kind of vision of what America could be, not where both spouses need a C-suite level position and they got to have 2 or 3 side hustles, and then maybe they can struggle and barely afford a mortgage. No, I think real high-paying jobs addressing the silent depression, real wage gains for the bottom 90%. Yes, this will be horrible for capital markets, but we know how well they've done. They have done exceedingly well via this structural bid into their financial assets. So I think this is kind of the direction things are going, not just on the domestic political side, with that kind of populism I was just talking about, real wage gains for the bottom 90, but also just kind of globally. So anyways, hopefully that was helpful. I know it's a lot. Again, check out my X. I've been talking about all of these dynamics for at least a year and a half. And I have some pretty thorough articles there. Anyways, catch you in the next one.
Hi everybody, today's Friday, May 30th, 2025, and our friend Larry Johnson is back with us. Welcome back, Larry.
What the hell happened to May, man?
Oh,
we were just talking, it was May 1st. Whoa, God.
Let's go. Larry, let's start with the situation between the United States and Iran. And there are a lot of speculation right now that they're going to get a deal as maybe sooner than we expected. And the foreign minister of Iran came out and said, we are not there to reach an imminent deal with the United States.
These things take so much metal.
And we know they're diplomats. They're not going to inform us what would happen. But here is what Donald Trump said in terms of the way that he's dealing with Netanyahu and Iran.
Back on Iran, did you warn Prime Minister Netanyahu against taking some sort of actions that could disrupt the talks there? In a phone call last week.
Well, I'd like to be honest. Yes, I did. Next question, please.
Just about sanctions.
I did. Yeah.
Senate Republicans want to just have a warning.
I said I don't think it's appropriate.
What exactly did you tell him?
I said I don't think it's appropriate. We're having very good discussions with him, and I said I don't think it's appropriate right now. Because if we can settle it with a very strong document, very strong, with inspections and no trust. I don't trust anybody. I don't trust anybody. So no trust. I want it very strong where we can go in with inspectors, we can take whatever we want, we can blow up whatever we want, but nobody getting killed. We can blow up a lab, but nobody's going to be in the lab, as opposed to everybody being in the lab and blowing it up, right? Two ways of doing it. Yeah, I told him this would be inappropriate to do right now because we're very close to the solution. That could change at any moment. It could change with a phone call. But right now, I think they want to make a deal, and we can make a deal. Save a lot of lives.
Your take in the way that Donald Trump is dealing with somehow we can say Republicans together with net deal.
Low power.
I don't know if you saw the report from the Middle East Spectator this morning. Came out, I guess it was late yesterday, but that Trump ordered the Pentagon to halt coordination for joint American-Israeli strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities. I've been aware, let's say for how long, let's say within the last 2 weeks, that orders had been issued to
Alright, we got one.
military elements operate under central command's authority.
It's all about that economy. Just ask China.
How they were going to do the attack.
All right.
on Iran.
An hour and 20 minutes.
So,
Perfect.
The fact that it's been reported that Trump has ordered
Thanks
them
for
to
hanging
stand
out,
down.
guys. I'll be back with a more productive one later today.